My name is Emma, and up until 3 nights ago, I truly believed my family loved me. Maybe not in the warmest hug. Every day we talk about our feelings way, but enough to believe that everything I did for them over the years meant something, that all the money I sent, the times I bailed them out the weekends, I skipped rest to help them move or fix something, that it was appreciated. That illusion shattered with a simple notification. It was around 6:30 p.m. and I was halfway through making dinner. The pan was sizzling and I was chopping onions when my phone buzzed on the counter. Absent-mindedly, I wiped my hands on a towel and checked it. It was a message from my Aunt Diane. She doesn't usually message me unless it's about a birthday or someone needing help, so I assumed it was one of those. There was a video, no caption, just a clip, thinking it was maybe an old family video. I tapped play. The screen showed a shaky view of someone's dining table. A purse blocked most of the frame, but then I heard my mother's voice. Emma should be grateful. She'd be nothing without us. I stopped breathing. The chopping knife froze mid-air. Then came my father's chuckle. A pathetic failure. But at least she's good for something, paying our bills. Laughter. I stared at the screen, unmoving as my aunt's voice. The same one who sent me the clip joined in. If Emma ever stopped sending money, we just guilt her into it. She's too soft to say no. My name, my voice, my life. They weren't talking about some distant cousin or stranger. They were talking about me. The video shook again and then abruptly ended. The next thing I saw was a new message. This message has been unsent. Too late. I stood there for what felt like forever. The smell of burning onions creeping in, but I didn't move. My hand still clutched the phone, my thumb hovering over the now-deleted video. They didn't know I had seen it. Diane must have realized what she'd done and panicked. Probably hoped I'd been too busy to notice. Maybe she even reassured the others. Don't worry, Emma didn't see it. That was my advantage. I could have called her right then. Could have called all of them. Could have screamed, demanded answers. But I didn't. I sat down at my tiny kitchen table, stared at the phone, and let every cruel word they said replay over and over in my head. Because I needed to hear it. I needed to understand the truth. That night I didn't sleep much. The next morning I woke up to a text from my mom. Morning, sweetie. Just checking in. Hope you're doing well. Too normal. She never texted just to check in, and sure enough, 10 minutes later. Oh, by the way, rent is due soon. Can you send it by Friday? There it was. The pattern, the routine. I stared at the message. Normally, I would have replied right away. Of course, no problem. Maybe even added a smiley face just to keep things light. Not this time. This time I typed, I can't this month. Simple, clean, honest. I hit send. A minute passed. Buzz. What do you mean you can't? I sipped my coffee, let her stew. Another buzz. Emma, this is serious. We're counting on you. You know we don't have another option right now. Then a message from Diane. Hey, sweetie, your mom is freaking out. Is everything okay? I laughed quietly. Nobody asked if I was okay, if I had been struggling, if I even had the money. So I replied, I have some unexpected expenses this month. I can't send anything. No lies, no apologies, just the truth. And then I waited. My mom tried again. What could possibly be more important than your family? Then came the brother card. You know your brother has no way to cover rent. If he gets kicked out, that's on you. And finally the classic guilt trip. We raised you, Emma. We took care of you when you had nothing. Is this how you repay us? I clenched my jaw. When I had nothing, they didn't take care of me. I worked 3 jobs to get through college. I skipped meals to save money. I took care of them. And now Now they had finally shown me who they really were, and I was done pretending I didn't see it. The next few days were like walking through fog. I went to work, answered emails, smiled at clients. On the outside, nothing had changed, but inside, everything had. I couldn't unhear what they said. I couldn't unsee the way the message vanished, like trying to erase a bruise by pretending it never happened. By Thursday morning, the tension was already building. I got a message in the family group chat titled Family Emergency. My stomach twisted. My mom had sent it. "Mom, we need to have a call tonight. Everyone. No excuses, 7 p.m. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't see it, but because I didn't want to play into the same cycle again. The one where I'm summoned like an employee expected to show up, perform, and say thank you for the privilege. By 6:59 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Incoming FaceTime, Mom." I stared at it for a second. Then I answered. The screen filled with familiar faces. My mom perched on her beige leather couch, a concerned expression plastered on. My dad sat beside her, arms folded. My brother Jason was on the other tile, wearing a hoodie and scowling like he'd just been told finals were extended. "Emma." My mom started, her voice tight but sweet, the way it always was when she was about to say something cruel. "We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. I figured, "You didn't send the rent?" "No, I didn't." Wow, Jason jumped in. "You can't just stop." I blinked at him. "Actually, I can." My dad leaned forward. "Look, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior isn't like you." Wasn't it? Because it felt like the first thing that had ever been truly me. "Emma." My mom continued, ignoring the way my face stayed still unreadable. "I know you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe work is overwhelming, but family comes first." "Does it?" I asked quietly. "Or does family come first only when you need something?" "Don't be dramatic," my dad snapped. "You know we rely on you." "Exactly." I said, "You rely on me, but do you even know anything about me? When was the last time any of you asked how I was doing, or if I needed anything?" There was a pause. My mom sighed, shifting in her seat. "We just assumed you were fine. You've always handled things well." "Because I had no choice." Jason rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on. You act like you're the only one with problems. We all have issues. And yet I'm the only one who's been paying everyone else's bills." He looked like he wanted to argue, but couldn't come up with anything that didn't prove my point. "You can't hold this over us," my mom said quietly, her voice now low, dangerous. "You agreed to help. You said you'd always be there." I agreed before I knew what you really thought of me. I said. Her face paled just slightly. "What are you talking about?" "The video." I said, "The one Aunt D accidentally sent. The one where you called me a pathetic failure and laughed about guilting me into paying your bills." Silence. Jason looked away. My dad's mouth opened, then shut. "And my mom?" Her expression didn't shift. Not really. Just a blink, a calculation. "That was taken out of context," she said. "There was no context. We were just talking. You know how people vent sometimes." "You weren't venting. You were celebrating." Celebrating that I was too soft to say no. "Emma," she said, and I knew that tone. The one that came right before a guilt trip. "We're your family. No matter what, we love you. We just get frustrated sometimes. That doesn't mean you abandon us." "I'm not abandoning anyone." I said, "I'm just stepping out of the role you put me in. I'm not your savior. I'm not your safety net. I'm your daughter, and I want to live my life, not spend it patching up yours." "You think you're better than us now," Jason snapped. "No, I think I finally understand my worth." My dad shook his head, muttering something under his breath. My mom looked wounded, like she was about to cry. But I didn't feel guilty. For once I felt calmer. "This is selfish," Jason muttered. "Maybe," I said, "but I think I'd rather be selfish than used." "So that's it," my mom asked, voice brittle. "You're cutting us off." "I'm setting boundaries. And if you can't respect that, then yes." "Fine," my dad said, slamming the laptop shut on his end. Jason disconnected. My mom lingered for a second longer, staring at the screen like she didn't recognize me anymore. "Emma," she said one last time, "don't forget who was there for you." "I won't," I said, "because it was never you." And then I ended the call. I sat there for a long time after that, the apartment quiet around me. My tea had gone cold. Outside, the city lights blinked like sleepy stars. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. Because for the first time, I felt like I had a voice, and I had used it. The breaking point didn't come with yelling or tears. It came with a bank notification. I was halfway through my morning coffee, the quiet hum of the city just starting to buzz outside my apartment window. When my phone buzzed again, I picked it up without thinking, expecting another guilt-ridden text from Mom or a passive-aggressive check-in from Aunt Diane. Instead, it was an alert from my bank. Withdrawal of $2,000 completed, remaining balance $37.12. I blinked. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I never authorized that I tapped through the app with shaking fingers, scrolling through transactions, until I found the line item, Zelle transfer to Jason R. Jason, my brother? My heart stopped. He had access to my account from years ago when I helped him set up his own banking. He must have saved my details. Maybe even logged into my account directly, assuming I wouldn't notice. I stared at the screen in disbelief. $2,000 gone. Just like that. No call, no message, nothing. My coffee turned cold in my hand. I stood up pacing, trying to breathe. It felt like the walls of my apartment were closing in, the pressure building in my chest, like a kettle about to blow. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. But more than anything, I wanted to understand how someone I once protected, fed covered rent for someone I loved, could do this. I called him. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey," he said, like nothing had happened. "You took money from my account." Silence. Then a forced laugh. "Relax, it's just a temporary thing. I needed it for rent. I was going to tell you." "You were going to tell me," my voice cracked. "You stole from me. Jason, that's not just some slip-up. That's theft." He scoffed. "Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. It's not like you're broke." "I am broke now." I snapped. "That was all I had until payday. You didn't even ask." "I knew you'd say no. So I figured, why even ask?" I was desperate. "You have no idea the pressure I'm under." I laughed bitterly. "You feel pressure. Try being the only one holding everything together for years. Try never being allowed to say no without being called selfish." He didn't respond. "You know what? Don't bother paying it back. I'm freezing the account. You're done. All of you. Emma, come on." I hung up. Then I called the bank and reported the transaction and locked down every account he had access to. For the first time in years, I wasn't crying, I wasn't panicking. I was furious, and that fury made me think. I opened my laptop and wrote an email. Subject regarding future support. Mom, Dad, Jason, and Aunt Diane. You may have already noticed the change. I'm no longer sending money. I'm no longer replying to emotional blackmail or demands masked as concern. For years, I gave everything I had. Not just money, my peace, my security, my future. I watched you spend freely while I ate canned soup. I sacrificed vacations, health insurance, and joy, so you wouldn't have to feel discomfort. And I told myself that was love. That was family. But that video changed everything. Yes, Aunt Diane, I saw it. I heard every word. The way you laughed. The way Dad called me pathetic. The way Mom said I'd be nothing without you. And then, as if that wasn't enough, Jason stole from me. Not one of you has apologized. Not one of you has asked how I'm doing, if I'm okay. Instead, you panicked because the money stopped. You've all shown me exactly what I am to you. Not a daughter, not a sister, not family, just an ATM. So here's the truth. You don't need me. You never did. You just needed my income. Going forward, I'm reclaiming my life. That means no more payments, no more guilt trips, no more pretending I'm blocking your numbers. This is my boundary, and it's non-negotiable. Don't reach out. Don't send messages. Don't show up. This isn't revenge, it's survival. Emma. I hit send, no hesitation. My inbox was silent for a few hours. Then the floodgates opened. Missed calls, voicemails, emails, some angry, some begging, some trying to twist the narrative again. I ignored them all. That evening I sat in my apartment with a cheap bottle of wine, a frozen pizza in the oven, and a heavy weight off my shoulders. I was alone, but for the first time it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. I wasn't scared anymore. They had pushed me to the edge, and I had finally jumped. I hadn't even left the room after my announcement when the voices started rising. My father stood up so fast his chair screeched across the tile floor. "What the hell is wrong with you, Emma?" he snapped. "You think this is some kind of game?" I didn't flinch. Not this time. I looked at him squarely and said, "No, I think this has been a game for all of you, one where I lose every time." My mother looked like she'd been slapped. "You ungrateful little girl," she spat. "After everything we've done for you." "What have you done for me, Mom?" I asked, my voice steady even as my hands trembled slightly at my sides. "You used me, all of you. I was your ATM, your safety net, your silent servant, and I let it happen. Because I thought maybe it meant you loved me." My brother Jason crossed his arms. "You're being dramatic." I turned to him. "Am I? You stood there in that video laughing about how I'm too soft to say no. Guess what? I'm not too soft anymore." There was a pause then, thick and uncomfortable. My aunt finally spoke up, trying for her usual fake calm. "Sweetheart, we can talk about this. Maybe you just need some rest. This isn't like you." "You're right," I said. "It's not like the old me. That version of Emma is gone." And then I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the tile like punctuation. My chest burned with adrenaline. My throat felt tight, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I couldn't. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the sound of my breath and the occasional crunch of gravel under the tires. By the time I pulled into my parking space, it was as if all the noise I had silenced came roaring back. My phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, angry texts. My mom sent me paragraphs in rapid succession, guilt-tripping me with lines like, "We raised you to be better than this," and "You're breaking up the family." Jason texted once, "You're seriously screwing this up. Don't expect us to forget." I turned my phone off. Inside my apartment, the quiet felt different. Not lonely, just clean, like the air had been cleared. I stood in the kitchen for a while, hands resting on the countertop, staring at the blank wall in front of me. A week ago, I would have felt crushed under their anger, scrambling to fix it all, to apologize, to smooth it over, but not anymore. Relief didn't come instantly. At first, there was just exhaustion. I curled up on my couch blanket, pulled tight around me, and let my mind race. What now? What if they really never spoke to me again? What if I ended up alone? Then the quieter questions came. What if that's okay? What if I can build something new? Over the next few days, the silence from them became permanent. No one apologized. No one checked in. They just vanished. Or maybe they were waiting, expecting me to reach out and beg my way back in. But I didn't. Instead, I made plans. I took out the notebook I hadn't touched in years and started writing down goals. Real ones. My own. I called my friend Melanie and told her everything. She didn't try to fix it. She just listened. Then she said, "You are always too good to be their doormat. It's about damn time." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. When I sat down to rework my budget, I realized just how much I had been giving them. Hundreds a month, sometimes more. No wonder I always felt like I was treading water. With that money, I signed up for a photography class I'd been eyeing for over a year. I booked a weekend trip to the coast. I started planning for a future that didn't include bending over backward for people who never appreciated me. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I'd made a mistake, if it was wrong to walk away. But then I'd remember that video. Emma should be grateful. A pathetic failure. She's too soft. And I'd feel the fire again. No, I wasn't soft. I was kind. And I was done letting them use that against me. The road ahead wasn't clear. I didn't have a perfect plan, but for the first time in my life, I was building something real. Something mine. And that was worth everything. It's strange how quiet strength feels. Not like a shout or a slam. Not like fists clenched or voices raised. It feels like a calm morning breeze after a storm. Like waking up one day and realizing you don't owe anyone anything. Not explanations, not apologies, not pieces of yourself. 3 months after I walked away from my family, I stood in the backyard of a little craftsman house I'd rented just outside Asheville. The trees were budding with the first signs of spring, and there was a table under the old elm tree, with thrifted vases of wildflowers, string lights tangled in the branches overhead, and the faint hum of my favorite acoustic playlist drifting from a Bluetooth speaker. It wasn't a wedding in a grand hall. There were no planners, no assigned seating, no speeches from people I didn't trust, but it was mine. I had built it from scratch with my own 2 hands, a handful of loyal friends, and a partner who never once asked me to shrink myself to fit their life. When Nathan proposed, he didn't ask my family's permission. He asked me. And that mattered more than he knew. He knew what I'd walked away from. He'd seen the toll of years spent trying to buy love with rent checks and tuition payments. He saw how hard it had been for me to say no, and how freeing it was when I finally did. He didn't fix me. He didn't try to, but he stood beside me while I rebuilt. Our wedding was small, 20 people, a homemade cake, potluck dinner, and mismatched chairs borrowed from the community center down the street. My dress wasn't designer. It was vintage found in a shop tucked between a record store and a vegan bakery. But I had never felt more beautiful than I did walking barefoot down the garden path, toward the man I chose. No one from my family came. They weren't invited, not out of spite, but because I'd made peace with the truth. I didn't need them there to feel complete. The old part of me would have grieved, that would have felt shame or doubt, but not anymore. Relief. That's what I felt most. A quiet, undeniable relief that I'd done the hard thing and survived. I started my mornings differently. Coffee in a ceramic mug I made in a local pottery shop. No phone calls demanding money. No text disguised as check-in. Just me, my own peace, and the life I had finally chosen. I started freelancing full-time again. This time for myself, not for approval. I found joy in projects that aligned with my values, with clients who respected my boundaries. And with every invoice I sent, every contract I negotiated, I felt myself standing tall. Sometimes the memory still stung. I catch myself remembering my mother's voice, or the way my brother used to make me laugh before the weight of obligation buried everything under resentment. But the pain no longer ruled me. It passed like weather, real, but no longer defining. And then one day, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name written in my father's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity, or maybe closure, made me peel it open. It wasn't long. Just a few lines. He said he didn't understand why I had turned so cold, but he hoped I was happy. He said he missed the way things used to be. I didn't cry. I didn't respond. Because I knew what he missed wasn't me. He missed what I gave, what I did, how I bent myself to keep everything running. He missed the daughter who never said no. That daughter didn't exist anymore. I took the letter outside, lit a match, and watched it burn in the fire pit Nathan had built me for Christmas. I whispered goodbye and meant it. That was my final release. Not dramatic, not loud, just enough. The biggest lesson I learned: love is not a debt, family is not an obligation, and peace is not something handed to you. It's something you choose again and again, even when it's hard. My story didn't end in bitterness. It ended in stillness, in self-respect. In a house filled with laughter, I trusted meals shared without strings, and quiet nights spent knowing I had finally stopped bleeding. For people who never once offered a bandage. Maybe one day they'll realize what they lost. Maybe not. But either way, I'm okay. Because I'm no longer the girl they used to know I'm Emma, and I finally belong to myself. Story 2. Thanksgiving used to be the one day of the year that felt sacred. My mom's cooking the cluttered table full of mismatched plates, my cousins fighting over the last roll. It was chaotic, but it was ours. It meant belonging. This year, though, it felt different, and not in the predictable things change way. Something deeper, sharper. I hadn't seen my family in weeks. Work had kept me busy, and the thought of stepping away from all that stress and just sinking into familiarity was the only thing getting me through the days. I texted my mom that morning. "What time should I come by?" Her response: 4 is great. See you then. Perfect 4 gave me time to pick up the pie I ordered and knock out some emails before changing. I left at 3:30, humming along to music, imagining the moment I'd walk in and be met with the scent of roasted turkey and cinnamon. It felt good, like I was walking toward something warm. But when I pulled up to my parents' house, I felt a pang of confusion. No other cars, no laughter spilling out through the windows. I knocked. No answer. I texted Mom again, but before I could hit send a message popped up. "We thought you'd be late." Another buzz, my sister. "We couldn't keep waiting." I pushed the door open. Inside, it was quiet. Not empty, but hollow. The table looked like the end of a meal, not the start. Half-eaten turkey plates with crumbs. Wine glasses already drained. No one in sight. It wasn't just that they ate without me. It was that they moved on. Like I was optional. Like I didn't matter. I stood there for a long minute, letting the silence stretch over me. Then I turned, walked back to my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up at a park sitting on a cold bench while couples strolled past with scarves and hot coffee. My phone buzzed again. "Mom's upset. Please come back." I blocked the number. I just needed to breathe. Later that night, I got a voicemail from Mom. Her voice cracked. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We just didn't think you were coming. Please call me." I did not that night. 3 days passed before I heard from them again. A text from Mom. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you." No apology, no ownership. Just a request. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part needed closure. We met at a cafe. She looked small across the table. Her hands wrapped around a mug like it could keep the moment warm. "I know you're upset," she said. "But we were worried you wouldn't show. The food was ready. People were hungry." I waited. "We didn't mean to exclude you. It just happened. It just happened." That phrase sat with me, like I had been erased by accident. Like my absence was a mild inconvenience instead of a gaping wound. I was still holding back when my sister walked in. She slid into the seat next to Mom and crossed her arms. "I don't get why this is such a big deal. We all know you're always late." It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. That was the moment I felt it, that final snap inside me. I stood up. No, it's not just about dinner. It's about the fact that no one thought to check on me. No one called. No one waited. I was an afterthought. Ming. You're overreacting, my sister muttered. I'm done. I said, done trying to fit into a family that doesn't make space for me. I walked out into the cold. For once it wasn't the weather that chilled me. It was the realization that I'd spent years holding together a relationship that no one else was fighting for. They didn't follow. They didn't call, not right away. And I didn't look back. I didn't go back home that night. I couldn't. The house where I'd grown up, where I used to smell cinnamon rolls baking and hear my dad humming while he carved the turkey. That place didn't feel like home anymore. Instead, I drove to a friend's apartment on the other side of town and crashed on her couch. She didn't ask many questions, just handed me a blanket and let me sit in silence. It wasn't until the next morning that everything started to hit me fully. I sat in her small kitchen, sipping on stale coffee, and scrolled through the messages I'd ignored from my mom, my sister, and even my cousin. All of them saying different versions of the same thing. We didn't mean to hurt you. We thought you were running late. You're overreacting. None of them said, I'm sorry we made you feel left out. That silence said everything. I stayed quiet for a couple of days. No calls, no texts, just work, food, sleep, repeat. But the stillness didn't give me peace. It just gave the thoughts more space to echo. Had it been an accident? Was it truly a misunderstanding? Or had they finally just stopped pretending to care? Then came the message that changed everything. It was from my sister Callie, short and cold, just like her tone when we were kids. We're having a family meeting. Sunday, Mom wants everyone there. You too, 5 p.m. No, please. No, we miss you. Just a command dressed up like an invitation. At first, I ignored it, but as Sunday crept closer, I kept checking the clock, like my body couldn't let go of the habit of showing up when my family asked, even when it hurt. Sunday came. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the address on my phone. It wasn't even our family home. They were meeting at my uncle's place, like it was some neutral ground. Maybe they figured I'd feel less cornered there. Maybe they knew I'd show up if the environment felt less familiar, less emotional. Either way, I decided to go not for them, but for me. I needed to hear what they had to say, if only to confirm what I already feared. The sky was gray by the time I pulled into the driveway. It smelled like winter was creeping in early, cold, quiet, and sharp. I took a breath, stepped out, and walked up the porch stairs slower than I needed to. Inside, they were all already seated. My mom, Callie, our cousin Jace, and even Uncle Rob, who usually stayed out of family drama. Everyone stopped talking when I walked in. Emma, my mom said softly, standing like she wasn't sure whether to hug me or brace for a storm. I gave her a quick nod and sat down without a word. I didn't trust myself to speak yet. We wanted to talk, she began, hands clasped like she was praying. Things got out of hand on Thanksgiving. It wasn't intentional. I stayed quiet, let the silence fill the room like fog. We thought you weren't coming, she continued. You didn't confirm. I finally looked up. I texted you that morning. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Callie jumped in instead. Emma, it was just dinner. You're making it bigger than it needs to be. There it was again, just dinner, like it hadn't been a lifetime of being sidelined, disguised as one meal. I exhaled slowly. It's not about dinner. It's about not mattering. It's about not being missed. No one said anything. Uncle Rob cleared his throat. Maybe we didn't handle it right, he said gently. But they didn't mean harm. I turned to him. Not meaning harm doesn't undo the hurt. My mom finally broke. You always think we're against you. You take everything so personally. Because it is personal. I snapped louder than I intended. You don't get to erase that by acting like I'm too sensitive. I'm not asking for a parade. I just wanted to be seen, to be included. But you made a decision that I didn't matter enough to wait for." Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She nodded slowly, like she finally heard me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And for the first time I believed she might mean it. But it still wasn't enough. Callie rolled her eyes. "You know what? Maybe you just like being the victim." That was the last straw. I stood up, calm and clear. "No, I'm just done being the one who has to shrink to make room for everyone else." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked toward the door, my footsteps steady. My mom called after me. "Emma, please, don't walk away again." I paused with my hand on the doorknob. "I'm not walking away," I said, turning back. "Just once I'm choosing myself." And then I left. Back in my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine. My hands were shaking, but my chest felt lighter. I had said what I needed to say. No more quiet swallowing of hurt. No more minimizing how I felt. I'd shown up, listened, and spoke my truth. Now it was up to them to decide what to do with it. A week passed, then another. There were no follow-ups, no calls, not from my mom, not from Callie. Not even a passive-aggressive group chat post from my cousin, like she used to send the kind that pretended everything was normal, even when it clearly wasn't. It was like the family had decided in quiet agreement to go on without me again this time for real. But instead of panic, I felt peace. Don't get me wrong, there were still moments. Moments when I reached for my phone instinctively after a long day. Moments when I passed a bakery window and remembered how my mom and I used to split cranberry scones in the fall. The ache came and went like a tide. Sometimes soft, sometimes sharp, but never enough to pull me back into the current. I started cooking for myself again. Nothing fancy. Just enough to remind myself I could create warmth even alone. Roasted vegetables, lentil stew, that homemade bread recipe. I'd bookmarked for months, but never had the time or peace of mind to try. Funny how healing looks like little things. The smell of garlic and olive oil, a clean countertop, a quiet morning. I started journaling too. Just a few lines at first, then full pages, then entire entries pouring out like smoke rising from a fire I hadn't realized was still burning. I wrote about everything, not just Thanksgiving, but the years before that. All the holidays I'd spent biting my tongue. All the times I'd been the easy one, the one who always understood. I thought writing it out would help me forget. But what it really did was help me forgive not them, not yet but myself. For staying so long, for trying so hard, for confusing obligation with love. One evening I got a message. Not from my mom or sister, but from my cousin Jace. "Hey, I know things are weird. Just wanted to say I heard what you said, and I think you were right. For what it's worth. I saw it. I saw how they treated you. I didn't speak up, and I should have. I'm sorry." It wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. But it mattered. I stared at it for a while, then wrote back. "Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing okay." I didn't need to say more. Neither did he. Some bridges don't burn. They just narrow into footpaths. Maybe one day we'd meet again in the middle. Later that week, I got another message, this time from my mom. Not a plea, not an explanation. Just one line. "I miss you." I stared at it a long time. My chest tightened, but I didn't reply. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because feelings alone don't rebuild trust. That takes time. That takes actions. Not just words typed in the dark. Instead, I opened my window and let the November air drift in. It smelled like wood smoke and frost. Like change. Like something ending, but something else beginning too. I lit a candle on the windowsill. Not for them, for me. A reminder that I didn't need a full house to feel full. that peace wasn't something I had to earn by being quiet, agreeable, or forgiving too quickly. In the months that followed, life kept moving. Winter settled in. Work got busy. I started volunteering at a food pantry on Saturdays, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. I met people whose stories were stitched with hardship, but whose spirits burned like oak logs in deep snow. One of the women there, Marcy, reminded me of my mom, but in a good way. Tough practical, but kind too. The kind who brought an extra sandwich without asking if you'd eaten. Family's what you build. When the old one stops holding, she said once, you can stay broken or you can grow. That stuck with me. Eventually, I stopped checking my phone for texts that weren't coming. I stopped replaying Thanksgiving like a movie. I couldn't stop watching. I stopped wondering if I was wrong for walking away. Because I wasn't. Some people carry fire inside them for years, afraid to let it burn. But me, I finally let it rise. I let it light the path ahead. I let it warm me. And now I cook small meals in my quiet kitchen and laugh with friends who show up when they say they will. I answer only to people who see me fully. I go to sleep, without wondering if I've disappointed someone just by existing. I don't know if I'll ever speak to my mom or sister again. Maybe one day we'll sit at a table again, or maybe not. That chapter hasn't been written yet, but I'm not waiting around for them to write it. I'm writing my own now. And in this story, I'm not the afterthought. I'm the author. Story 3. They say baby showers are supposed to be joyful. Soft pastels, gentle music, tiny socks, and warm smiles. I envisioned mine as a modest gathering, a celebration of the new life growing inside me. I meticulously planned every detail paid, for the food ordered, the cake-selected decorations, and even cleaned the living room to rid it of lingering takeout smells and my dad's cigar smoke. At 8 months pregnant, I stood on a stool to hang paper garlands, hoping that for once my family would be happy for me. Initially, it seemed like they were relatives arrived with wrapped gifts. My aunt brought baby books. My cousin handed me a stuffed fox, saying it reminded her of my childhood. I dared to believe this day might be different. Then my parents stood up. My mom tapped her wine glass with a fork, smiling, as if she had an announcement of her own. My dad had his arm around her. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my younger brother Ryan shifting nervously. Before we cut the cake, my mom began, "We have a little surprise." Ryan stepped forward, holding a letter like it was the Olympic torch. "I got in," he beamed. "Full acceptance to Stanford." The room erupted in applause. Someone cheered. My aunt gasped and rushed to hug him. The same aunt who minutes earlier had been excited about my baby. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Chairs turned toward Ryan. My carefully arranged snack table became his congratulatory buffet. My cake sat untouched. People calm. Plus 2. TikTok. Plus 2. Reddit plus 2. Reddit. Plus 6. YouTube. Plus 6. TikTok. Plus 6. Reddit plus 6. Reddit plus 6. People calm. Plus 6. Then his friends arrived, a group of loud backpack-wearing high school seniors. One shouted, "Where's the party at?" Another had a speaker blaring music that drowned out the lullaby playlist I'd spent hours curating. I stood there, still holding a cup of ginger tea, wearing the soft pink sash that read Mom-to-be. No one looked at me. They moved the gifts off the main table to make room for drinks. My mom casually mentioned we'd cut the cake later. Then someone set a soda bottle next to it, which tipped, leaving a trail of fizz down the side. I picked up a napkin and started blotting it. The frosting had smeared onto the table. I got down on my knees to wipe it before it dried. While I was kneeling 8 months pregnant, someone stepped over me to hug Ryan. Not even saying, "Excuse me." I stayed there for a few seconds, crouched on the floor, hands sticky with icing, breathing deeply while they laughed and shouted over my head. I could hear Ryan in the other room talking about campus visits and dorm preferences. My mom was bragging about the tutors they'd hired to help him reach his potential. The same mom who told me at 16 that college was a scam and I should just get a job at the supermarket. So I did. I worked shifts until my feet ached, then came home and packed shipping boxes for my tiny online shop. I figured things out on my own. When my business started to grow, I didn't ask them for anything. I paid bills, saved and bought this house with money they didn't even know I had. But somehow, they still believed it was theirs. My mom once said I was lucky to be able to live at home during my pregnancy, forgetting I paid the mortgage, the utilities, and even part of Ryan's tutoring last year. It all played in my head as I slowly stood up, sticky napkins still in hand. I looked around the room. My decorations were crumpled. My baby name banner had been pushed aside to make space for a hand-drawn sign that said, "Congrats, Ryan. Reddit pulls 9. Reddit pulls 9. People calm pulls 9." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I walked to the kitchen, washed my hands, dried them on a dish towel, and went to my room. I closed the door, sat on the bed. My back ached, my feet were swollen, but my head was clear. Down the hall the music thumped like a pulse that didn't belong to me. Reddit pull us 2. Reddit pull us 2. Reddit pull us 2. I picked up my phone, opened a folder I'd been quietly building for weeks. I didn't argue, but I also didn't forget. I used to think things were equal when we were little, that we were just two kids in the same storm trying to stay dry under the same leaking roof. But when I look back now, really look, I can see the way the scales were always tipped, even in the small things. When I was 6 and Ryan was 4, he threw my favorite doll in the fireplace. I cried for an hour. My mom told me it was my fault for leaving it where he could reach it. When I said that wasn't fair, she sent me to my room for talking back. Ryan got dessert that night, I didn't. In 3rd grade, I won 2nd place in the spelling bee. I came home beaming, holding the ribbon like it was made of gold. My dad glanced at it and said, "Just second. Maybe next year." When Ryan won a participation medal in a soccer tournament, they threw him a pizza party. When I got an A- on a math test in 8th grade, my dad said, "Well, at least you're trying." When Ryan got the same grade, a year later, he got a tutor and a full lecture about unlocking his brilliance. I was expected to help around the house because I was more mature. I did dishes while Ryan played video games. I cleaned while he got praised for remembering to take out the trash once a week. I was told to be patient, to be grateful, to set an example. Oh, the older I got, the more invisible I became. When I was 16 and said I wanted to go to college, my mom laughed. "College for what? So you can waste 4 years and come out in debt. Oh, honey, you're better off getting a job and saving up." So I did. I applied to everything. Grocery stores, retail warehouses. I got hired at a discount clothing store and worked the floor during Black Friday while Ryan was still in middle school. By the time he was 16, he had a brand new laptop, 3 private tutors, and a college prep coach. My parents took out a small loan to cover it. They called it an investment. They never asked me if I needed help with anything. I remember once at 17, I got into a minor car accident on the way to work. I wasn't hurt, just shaken. I called my mom from the side of the road. She sighed and said, "You should have been more careful," then hung up. 2 years later, Ryan dented his fender in a parking lot, and my dad left work early to go comfort him. He told everyone at dinner that night how grown up Ryan had been for calling him. At 19, I started my online shop. It was small, just reselling clearance items and shipping them from my bedroom. I packed orders at night, sometimes falling asleep beside the printer. I never told anyone how many returns I had to wait, how often shipping delays made customers furious. I just kept going, and slowly it worked. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't flashy, but it was stable enough to quit my job enough to build something real. When I bought the house, I didn't tell my parents right away. I just invited them over and handed them the keys. My mom cried. My dad patted Ryan on the back and said, "Now your sister has a place where we can all be together." They moved in the next month. They never asked if they should contribute, never offered to split bills. They acted like I was doing what any daughter would do. I let it slide. I told myself it was temporary. The morning light came slow through the blinds, casting long shadows across the kitchen. The table was still a mess from the night before, crumbled napkins, tipped over cups, and the half-smashed cake I'd never got to cut. I moved through it like a stranger cleaning in silence, while the rest of the house slept off their celebration. I knew what I was going to do. I had known before the baby shower even began. That folder I'd been building quietly. It wasn't just wishful thinking. It was a map out. Legal documents, lease terms, property rights, copies of every payment I ever made toward the mortgage. I had everything I needed to reclaim the space they acted like they owned. Still putting the papers on the table felt like a final blow. Not because I regretted it, but because I already knew what was coming. At 7:02 a.m., my mom walked in. Her slippers whispered on the wood floor, and when she saw the papers, she froze. "What's this?" she asked, voice still raspy from sleep. I didn't answer, I just sipped my tea. She read. She gasped, then she screamed. My dad came in, then Ryan, and the house that had been filled with music and shouting the night before now echoed with disbelief and fury. "You're evicting us," my mother shouted. "I'm taking back my house," I said. "After everything we've done for you," she cried, "you ungrateful child." Ryan couldn't believe it. He acted like I'd betrayed him personally. "It was just one party. You're doing this over that." "I'm doing this because I'm done being invisible," I said. They threw out all the classics, guilt, shame, confusion, promises to change. But it was too late for that. "We raised you," my dad said. "We supported you." No. I said, "I supported you. I paid for this roof. I paid for your bills. I paid for Ryan's tutors. And I did it quietly. But now I'm speaking." They didn't take it well. My mom called my aunt. My dad sent a flurry of messages to relatives. Within a day, I was the villain of the family story. Selfish, hormonal, irrational. "We don't want to stress her out." I read in a forwarded text, "She just needs help." Help. I was 8 months pregnant, running a business, paying for 3 adults to live rent-free. And still, they thought I needed help, as in psychiatric help, for setting a boundary. On day 4, my dad offered to pay rent. I told him it was too late. On day 7, Ryan said he'd lose his scholarship if he had to move now. I shrugged. "You should have thought about that before you trashed the house." By day 10, someone emailed my business partner anonymously, suggesting I wasn't stable enough to lead. It was obvious who'd sent it. The language mirrored my mom's. I documented it. I had my lawyer send a notice. By day 16, I filed the formal eviction notice. They were stunned. They still thought I wouldn't follow through. But I did. The shame campaign didn't stop. My mom sobbed daily. My dad kept saying, "We're family. This isn't right." Ryan called me crazy, said I was ruining my kid's life. No. I said, "I'm saving her from repeating mine." Packing began slowly. Then all at once, I didn't help. I didn't yell. I just waited. On the 30th day, my mom stood by the door, arms crossed, tears ready. "You'll regret this family is forever. Exactly. I said, "That's why I'm building one that doesn't treat me like I'm disposable." Ryan slammed the door, laughed. "You're lucky without me. There's no one else to blame. Menti inya." I looked around the quiet, empty room, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel blamed. I felt free. The silence after they left didn't feel like the absence of noise. It felt like something sacred. It was the kind of silence that came after a storm, when the air is clearer and your chest feels lighter, even if the ground is still wet with all that had been broken. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on glass in my own home. There were no more footsteps stomping down the hallway at 2 a.m., no blaring video games bleeding through the walls. The kitchen didn't constantly reek of scorched popcorn or unwashed dishes. It smelled like lemon soap again, like calm. My body was tired heavy with the weight of a baby ready to arrive any day. But my spirit, my spirit was standing tall. I spent the next few weeks preparing the house for her. Not just baby-proofing and painting the nursery, but truly preparing. I saged the rooms. I rearranged furniture. I donated every last item that wasn't mine or didn't bring me peace. There was no trace of them left in the house, not in the corners, not in the air, not in the energy. The day my daughter was born, it was raining. I went into labor around 3 a.m., the same hour I used to lie awake listening to my mom argue with customer service or Roger shouting into his headset. Only this time the house was quiet. I called my doula, grabbed the bag I'd packed weeks ago, and took one last look around the house before heading to the birthing center. I whispered, "We're ready," and it felt like the house whispered back. She came into the world fast, strong, alert, with wide, dark eyes that stared straight into mine like she already knew me. And in that moment, I understood what every sacrifice had been. For every dollar saved every night I spent researching how to protect my home, every boundary I set, it was all for her. I named her Kaya. It means restful place fitting, because for the first time, my life finally felt like that. The first few months were hard. Babies don't care about schedules or how tired you are. There were nights when I rocked her in the nursery, whispering lullabies. Through tears because I was scared. I wasn't doing enough. But every morning I'd wake up and realize I was doing it. We were okay. I wasn't failing her. I was showing her how to build a life from the bones of disappointment. No one from my family reached out when she was born. No cards, no texts, no offers to help, and I won't lie, it hurt. Not because I wanted them there, but because a small part of me had still hoped they might change. That maybe the birth of a child would soften their hearts. But hoping for change from people who have shown you who they are isn't strength. Letting go is. A few months later, I got a message from my cousin Sarah. She'd heard about Kaya through the grapevine and wanted to drop off a gift. I was hesitant, but something told me it was safe. Sarah had always been different, quiet, kind. She showed up with a little knitted blanket and a box of herbal tea. We sat on the porch while Kaya slept inside, and for the first time in years, I had a conversation with someone in my family that didn't leave me feeling small. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up at the baby shower," she said, her eyes wet. "I saw what was happening. I just didn't know how to help." "You're helping now," I said. Since then, a few more relatives have trickled back into my life. Carefully, respectfully. They don't ask questions about the past. They don't try to defend what happened. They just show up in small ways. Dropping off soup when Kaya caught a cold. Sending a text on holidays. That's enough for me. I don't need a big family. I need a good one. These days, the house is filled with new sounds. Kaya giggling as she tries to chase our cat. Her favorite cartoons playing softly in the background, the beeps of my laptop as I manage my business during her naps. I still work, but not like I used to. I hired help. I set boundaries. I take breaks. My daughter won't grow up thinking rest is something you earn only after exhaustion. I tell her stories. Not about the past, not yet, but about women who are strong, who build homes with their hands and hearts, who don't wait for someone else to give them permission to be powerful. One day when she's old enough, I'll tell her how she came into this world during the quiet after the storm, how her mama stood up not just for herself, but for the life they would share. People ask me if I ever think about reconnecting with my parents or Roger. My answer is always the same. I think about what's best for Kaya, and if one day she asks about them, I'll tell her the truth. Not the bitter version, not the sugar-coated one, just the truth, because that's the legacy. I want to leave her clarity, strength, and peace. And if you're wondering whether I regret any of it, standing my ground, evicting my own family, choosing solitude over shared blood, the answer is no. Not once, not for a moment. Some people say motherhood softens you, and maybe it does, but it also sharpens you. It shows you what really matters. And what matters to me is raising my daughter in a home where love doesn't come with conditions. This is our story now, not one of survival, one of sovereignty. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.